I'm Jen Thurman Williams, and I'm with the Mason Conservation District. I am so lucky that I have been there for 30 years. I just enjoy my job so much. It's changed over the years that I've been there. I right now am doing more education and outreach. So, and our plant sale and all the things that would be public facing. Mostly though, in the spring, we're moving toward our youth education programs. So we'll be in the classroom with students, and then we take them out to different sites in Mason County. So the estuary, the Skokomish estuary, we'll take them to Cranberry Lake, we'll take them all over. So Shelton students, Pioneer and Hood Canal students have access to all these great places that we have here at Mason County. So, but I'm gonna just give you an overview of what Mason Conservation District does, and then we'll jump right into the beautiful native plants. All right, so Mason Conservation District is one of districts of every county in the state. Our district was formed in 1956. So we've been in the community for 69 years. So we are here to help you. Our services are free. We provide help to farmers, so livestock owners. We would help with technical assistance. We also can provide cost share assistance to make improvements to farms that improve water quality. So we have specialists that can come out and individually walk your property and give you ideas of how improvements of water quality or natural resource concerns that you might have. We have forest stewards on staff. So if you have a small or large plot of forestry, we're come out to help you. We can provide farm or forest plans that help manage your forest. We have habitat restoration crew. So these people are absolutely fantastic. We plant like 60,000 trees and shrubs every year to improve waterways. Right along the water sides, we include vegetation so that it will shade the streams, increase the buffer size, improve fish habitat. So our restoration crew is just phenomenal. And then of course our education and outreach, which we're just so proud of, and just we get to work with many different community partners, and Tessa and WSU being one of the partners that we work with. We take students out to an organic farm and they harvest vegetables that then is donated to a food bank. So it's just a really, really great program that I'm really proud that we have. All right, now we're into the landscaping with native plants. So when we're landscaping, we always would like to, oftentimes when we purchase a home, it comes with a landscape that is a very traditional landscape, but there's opportunities to improve it, to add native plants, because you're going to be providing benefits for all the pollinators and all the other wildlife that is really adapted to those specific plants. So we're going to talk about what is native, why you use native plants, design tips, and some of my favorite plants, and resources that you can turn to. All right, so native plants are generally considered as plants that have been here pre-colonization, or that are adapted to our growing conditions. So once established, native plants don't need extra water or fertilization. They just grow. And so it provides us more time to just enjoy the plants and just being outside and not having to do so much maintenance. So there's many ways that you can acquire native plants, different techniques. We currently have our native plant sale ongoing right now. So you can go to our website, check out what we have. And we supply generally bare root seedlings, so smaller plants. They come in bundles of 5 generally. And then if that's too many, you can always share them with your friends. So we've mentioned like why you would use native plants. So native plants are a very affordable, or they can be depending on the sizes that you get, but they're just related to the ground around you. So when you're wanting to include natives, but you don't know what kind you would want to use, just look around and kind of look at the wild spaces around your home and see if it, do you see salal, or do you see kinnikinnick on the ground? So using what you see around you and then incorporating that into maybe your traditional landscape. So you might have your traditional landscape, but then just keep adding more and more natives, and it will slowly become just a much easier yard to maintain. And it is definitely okay to not have just a 100% native landscape. It is okay to mix your favorite plants in with natives, or mixing fruit trees or vegetables inside of your landscaping. It's all right to just enjoy what you like, and it doesn't have to fit a specific mold. So just know that it is okay to slowly change over into a native landscape, or just adding your favorite plants. So there's a lot of opportunities to do a mixture of both, depending on what you're interested in. Trees are like so key, and oftentimes when we purchase a home or a plot of land, it has already been cleared of trees. And so it takes a lot of effort and work to bring back those trees that really make a difference in your landscape. So preserving the trees that you have, and perhaps even, I'm sorry, what's the word I'm trying to use? I was going to say to prune trees heavily instead of removing them really could enhance the views that you're trying to preserve. So if it's a view of the water, still maintaining the tree and maintaining the root structure and the benefits of that tree is really key, as opposed to removing the tree completely and losing those erosion control benefits. Or so having a tree gives you shade, wildlife habitat, and just enhanced beauty. Seasonal wet areas. We hear a lot about rain gardens now. We've installed several rain gardens on people's properties, and there's so many great resources about rain gardens. So being able to really think of those areas, wet areas, as a positive opportunity, as opposed to a frustrating, it's just wet over here. But taking and like really looking forward to as a challenge, like what kind of plants would thrive in this wet area, and bringing in those native plants that might really bring you a lot more joy and less frustration than maybe just a mowed or grassed area. So a rain garden, just so we're clear about what that is, it's just taking the rain from our roofs and directing it into a built environment that will then slowly absorb that water, and then it will treat that water if there was any pollutants. So the plants and the soils will be able to absorb that water more slowly and reduce runoff into our waterways. All right, so here are some quick tips for design. Really like defining your goals. What do you want from your garden? Different considerations that you might think of. Narrowing your focus. Orderly landscapes versus more natural landscapes. All right. So defining your goals, you can have several goals when you're doing your landscaping with native plants. You may want to specifically improve mason bee habitat, or you may want to try to get more butterflies into your yard, or you may want to prevent invasive species or remove invasive species like Scotch broom and blackberry that's trying to come into your yard. So you can have many different ecological goals, things that are going to improve the wildlife habitat and all those things. But you can also have landscaping goals. So you want your yard and your landscape to be easy to play or easy to work in or easy to walk through, to be inviting. So those two things, you can have all of those by mixing what you want and really taking a little bit of thought and consideration about goal planning and like, what do you want out of this space? What's going to give you the most joy when you're outside, and not to be overwhelmed by the work that might be. So if you are goal planning, then you will likely be able to have a better opportunity to enjoy your yard. There are a couple resources on our website. These are some of the landscaping plans that Karen Strelioff she used to be at Mason CD, but now she's at Thurston. She's a landscape designer.
That's nice.
These designs are available, and it just kind of gives you inspiration about how you might incorporate native plants. So you can see how we have a marine shoreline and we have a lake shoreline, but we also have, like a shady design. We have a moist, wet area design. So you can go there and kind of just get inspired by, different ideas. So things to consider when you're working on your landscaping would be views from inside of your house. So thinking of your window as a portrait or a picture, that how do you want to frame? What do you want to see from the outside? How do you want to see that as a piece of art? So you can be thinking, okay, from this living room, I would love to see beautiful fall color, or I would like to be able to see birds. So you could make that like vignette outside of your window as a picture, basically. So what are your views from the inside of the house? Also, what kind of structures or areas are you designating? So do you want a play area? Do you want an area of grass so that you can get out there and play with your dog or have fun with your kids? The septic, definitely interesting things that you can do around your septic, gardens and things like that. So different areas, and try to plot that out, like what goes together. And then also, how do you move about in your garden? So sometimes, we make these beautiful paths, but if it doesn't actually go how you really walk, then it's not going to get used. So try to really think about, how do you really walk through your landscape? So considering the mature height of plants, so when you, especially with our plant sale, so it's this native plant sale, and you're getting a bare root seedling that is literally 12 inches high, it's easy to overplant an area, or maybe putting a tree extremely too close, to your house, knowing that, in 15 years, that tree is going to be, rubbing against your house. So really taking the time to think, okay, spread it out. However, also, if you are a really engaged gardener and you like to manipulate things, you might have them shrubs more tightly grown. And then maybe later you are enthused enough to take out some of those shrubs and move them somewhere else. So you have to know yourself as well as, like how much energy are you wanting to put it. So you can space them out, but just have a consideration for what is the size that this is supposed to get. So, putting a Doug for 5 feet from your house is not going to be great. This resource is also on our website. So you'll just, when you go to, it's a landscaping section on our website. So you can just go there and check out some of those things. So narrowing your focus. Sometimes even with every time I try to do actual gardening, I have really high hopes and big dreams in the spring with my catalogs and all the different things I want to grow. And it's just, wow. And I'll plant just everything. But then, as time goes, my time is still actually pretty limited. So, many things end up getting overgrown or they die or whatever. And so to try to remember that, what can you really handle? And it is okay to just start small and just add in little bits of plants here and there instead of like taking on a whole landscaping project and converting your yard to 100% natives, but just piecing in where you can and just doing what your either your budget or your time allows, and that's okay. So different types of landscaping appeal to different people. And so on this slide, you can see there's a real orderly landscape that might have hedges, that might have a lot of straight, maybe a pool or straight lines with limited number of vegetation types. So it's a repeat of similar plants so that it gives your eye just kind of a relaxed, repeated consistency. And that appeals to so many people, just feeling like that is the ease of it. So that's a style, and it's great. One could still incorporate native plants into that style. So if you're still looking for the orderly landscape, it's okay to also add native plants. There's many trees, deciduous trees, that would be beautiful in those situations. Another option would be using a natural landscape. So natural landscapes, let me just shift here. So an orderly landscape, like we spoke of, is a repeated types of planting, linear, kind of broad, drawing your eye out, so that visually it just is continuity. And so that can bring a lot of peace to some people. And then the natural landscape can appear messy to some people. So it's just how you feel in your garden. So a more natural landscape would have denser plantings. You would have more variety of species, and there would be more clumping. So you would have clumps of different plants. And that's also great with pollinators, so that they have these big patches of color that they can come and land on, and then they can see the next big patch and the next big patch. So it just really is up to you and what your style is, and they're all great. Native plants can be easily incorporated into both. So here's our the natural characteristics. I've not been able to go to New York to see Skyline and Highline. Thank you, Highline. But I've always wanted to, and they're really showing how these natural characteristics are really shown off in one of these landscapes. And so just these swaths of color and the different variation in heights and the complexity of this type of garden can be really energizing and really really nice in our very orderly kind of world that we have. So, with our roads and our offices and our, very structured areas, these natural areas can allow you to kind of breathe and kind of reconnect with the natural area, the natural world, and the animals that can be there. So Mary was, she brought this to my attention, this beautiful article, and I would love for you guys to check it out. And so I've taken some information and the pictures from it, and it's really talking about this natural landscape and how you can then borrow from the outside of your perimeter. You could borrow there. So you're building your area that reflects in the distance. So it's like you're expanding the picture beyond. So here in this photo, it's just showing the beautiful grasses as well as the built environment with the pool and the steps and the stones. But then it's also watching for that beyond, the pastures beyond. So it's actually bringing the property not yours into that whole vision, because you're like mimicking what's out there. So these natural landscapes, because they are so densely planted, can be a little easier to maintain, because once those plants grow together, you're competing less for weeds, or there's not as much room for invasive plants to come in. So you're really kind of packing things in. You're allowing for a lot more mimicking of the natural environment. You can still, and have your potted plants and the species that you really love can be incorporated easily. So, you can utilize the potted plants for just showcasing something, a plant that is maybe doesn't fit in, let's say, your in-ground planting. So there's been a lot of kind of pushback about some of these natural yards and how they look unkept, and that you don't, your yard looks messy or it's unmaintained. And so I think in this article it was really nice because it was speaking of maybe adding just a little bit of a signage, pollinators live here, or enjoy the wildlife habitat, or even just speaking, to your neighbors and encouraging them and telling them, oh, this is why I'm not mowing the lawn as short, or this is why it's a little bit looking like messy, because those stems in the winter, there could be pollinators in those stems. So it's important to leave those. So by providing conversation and communication about these natural landscapes, you're helping other people understand that there are benefits to this kind of wild look. And so, maybe we just let the grass grow a little bit longer. It's a hard thing that some people just really enjoy, that really tight green turf grass. But it's also okay to have it be a little bit more wild. And maybe, there's so much time spent in upkeep of grass that, by incorporating or expanding your garden beds just a little bit more would just cut a little bit more time out of your gardening or your mowing. So right now, like I mentioned before, this is our native plant sale. So we have a variety of plants. Every year I try to come up with something new and different, but after, I've been doing it for so long now, it's just, it's hard to find, like, oh my gosh, what's the newest plant? So, but every year I always find something good. A couple of my favorite plants. So we've started doing these packages. So this is the fire resistant package. And this is in cooperation with our forestry program that is doing the wildfire, the home surveys. So you can have a forester come to your house and you could do a wildfire survey and just having them help you see other things that could be providing higher risk in your landscape or for your home. So these plants were selected for their fire resistant characteristics. And they're in bundles of, there's 15 total plants, 3 of each of the type. So it's a little bit different than how we normally do our plants, but it allows for more variety and also fits in smaller landscapes. Our natural yard care package is just, again, it's with red flowering currant, which is just a staple for pollinators around here. It is so beautiful, and hummingbirds and all different kinds of pollinators just love this plant. And then we have the tufted hairgrass. So allowing that grass that has movement, it doesn't go crazy. It's pretty, it's a pretty good plant for kind of like sticking in its spot. Huckleberry is something that you can enjoy eating, and coneflower. So these 2 packages that we have are really a good way to an introduction to native plants if you wanted to give things a try. Some of the other ones that we have available, we're always going to have our native trees. Again, they come in 5s, so sometimes that is harder to figure out where I'm going to put 5 cedar trees. But just think of your neighbors and your friends, and you can always hand them to someone else. But we've got some herbaceous perennials, a lot more this year. But just remember that when you're ordering them or when you receive them, that they don't really look like much at this stage. So just know that they really are plants, even though it might look like a spider in a bag. But those really, they really are plants. So we always will have Nootka Rose. We have volunteers helping us with our plant sale bagging and packaging every year. And I always try to not have the volunteers do the Nootka Rose, just because they're so beautiful, but they're very thorny. So I try to make it, the restoration crew comes and helps us wrap the plants, and they're always willing to take on the Nootka Rose or whatever rose variety that we have. So the plants that we provide, or when you hear bare root, it really does mean that there is literally just the roots. So it also, we also sell plugs. So plugs have a little bit of soil attached to the roots. But bare root just means simply that it is the plant that you're receiving with just the roots. So they're pretty fragile. So that's why the plants are dormant at this time. And so when you receive them, they're still pretty dormant. You might see a couple like buds coming out of the plants, but in general, they're very dormant. So you just need to keep them in a cool, dark or dry area until you're ready to plant them. You can also put them in a mound of soil. If you can't get to them, if you're not planning to plant them soon, then you can create a space in your garden area with soil or in a bucket, and they should maintain for quite some time. So don't think that, you do have, myself, when I'm getting ready for a plant sale, I am always thinking, oh, I must have this and this and this. And before I know it, I've got 35 trees that now I have to plant. And so sometimes it takes a while to get through all of those, but just know that you can just put them in one big hole and then pull them out as you can find the home for them. Many people put them in pots. And if anyone's interested during plant sale, we have a lot of gallon pots. So if anyone's interested in gallon pots, you're welcome to contact me and we can hook you up with gallon pots. So a lot of our crew does bare root planting, but we also do potted plant stock. So we have a lot of pots, especially gallon pots. So as mentioned, on our website, you're going to find these native plant guides, the landscape plans. You'll find other information about native plants and how you can incorporate them into whatever goal it is. So if you're wanting to improve pollinator habitat, or if you're worried about erosion control. So you can look through there. There's pictures, descriptions, how you would use them. So a resource that you can use. Our plant sale is coming up. It'll be the pickup day is the 21st and 22nd. The orders are open now. You order online, pay for it with your credit card, and then pick it up the 21st and the 22nd. Depending on the weather this year, we may have to postpone it. I spoke with the nursery. Our plants were supposed to be delivered on Monday, but the ground is frozen. So they haven't been able to pull the plants out of the ground yet. So we'll just see how the week goes. But I would let anybody know who ordered a different pickup date. But as of right now, I'm still planning for the 21st and the 22nd. Oh, there we are. That's okay. That was close. But so I would say if there's anyone who is interested in volunteering for the plant sale, we have had so many master gardeners come and help us. So it is a great time. We just get together. It's pretty cold though in our shop, so you really have to come bundled up. But it's really fun to talk to people about, you know, all the different plants and working together. You can also hand out the plants to the customers when they come and provide your guys' expertise about native plants and how a person would plant them. So there's opportunities for master gardeners or any of the public to just reach out to us and volunteer. We would love to have you. I just wanted to mention a few other, I'm just looking at the time thinking. So a couple other opportunities that we have right now are if anyone is a food grower and is interested in market gardening, we have available on our website. We are purchasing from local farms. We're purchasing seedlings as well as spring vegetables. And this food is purchased from local farms, and then it goes to local food banks. So if you're a grower, we have that opportunity available. You can apply on our website and be part of this really cool program. The growers will also receive season extending assistance. So there's cloth and like low tunnel specifics and some culturally relevant seed sources for different plants that we've surveyed the community of what they would like to see. And there's some things that are not typically grown. So we're trying to encourage growers to grow culturally relevant food that's been requested. Also, the other thing is that if anyone is interested or has the desire to work with youth, we have this, fantastic education program, and it'll be starting in the spring where, you might be at all these different sites and you could be assisting staff with showing students the amazing things that we have here in Mason County. So, okay. Okay, sounds good. Okay.
when is the due date for putting orders in the plant?
All right, due date for plant orders is basically when you pick them up. My plants will be there until gone. So you'll see what is sold out. So you are welcome to order and then come pick them up on Friday or Saturday. So I'll take them right until the end.
Do you have any tips for addressing HOA bylaws that inhibit people from transitioning to native plants, like looking messy and members getting notices that they have to have a neat yard?
Yeah, I think that that article, and we can share that article with you, really does give some really helpful tips in that, like you could use signage, and maybe also you could have areas that are the more public areas are a little bit more kept, and then you slowly and slowly encroach on the whole area. And then also just speaking to your HOA or your neighbors about the benefits and that this is intentional, and these are the reasons why we're trying to do this. This is why my landscape looks this way. So it does require dialogue and really trying to help people understand that there's not one way to have a yard and how it should look, but it can be stressful. So you might choose to, not make your whole yard wild and free, but just areas of wild and free. And then as you feel confident in this, you just keep growing those areas.
So then, can you repeat this one? Are there natural plant packages that you have that deer and rabbits don't eat?
Are there natural packages that deer or rabbits won't eat? No. No. We've talked to so many people, and that's one thing with, like, when we are wrapping the plants with the master gardeners and the crew, you just hear so many stories. They're like, oh, well, if you plant this, they'll never eat anything. And then the person next to you will be like, oh, I planted that and they ate all of it. So I think, no, there's really, we've had deer repellent that we've used in plantings before and things like that, but it takes a lot of effort to just kind of keep up with it. So sometimes planting more might be a solution, like going crazy and planting even more so that when the deer or the rabbits come, the good thing with native plants though is that they are used to being browsed. It doesn't necessarily kill them. They're used to being browsed, so they're just naturally pruning things for you. So think of them as pruners instead of destroyers, maybe. Yeah, forever. So there's many people that are very diligent and they pre-dig their holes before they even come pick up the plants. But, sometimes it doesn't work out that way, and you put them in pots. And so it's just like when you go to a nursery and you purchase a plant and it is root bound. That takes a while to get to that point. So I wouldn't worry about leaving them in a pot too long. I have, unfortunately, like when I do those clumps, I dig my hole and I stick my whole thing in there, like, I'll get to them. Well, I see, like, oh, that was 1998. that's 2023's clump, or that's, sometimes my intention of getting them out there doesn't really work. And so then I have a tightly bound plant sale. So I think the biggest problem that people have when they put their plants in pots is that you have to remember to water them. Oftentimes they're kind of in a protected area and sometimes they just don't get enough water. So really knowing that with native plants, the first several years that you plant them, you really have to water them. It's really key to their success. Of course, with our restoration crew, and they're planting thousands and thousands of plants, we don't water anything. But we just take that as this is we know we're going to have a percentage of loss. So you could think of that too. I mean, you might just, the plants are not cheap, but they are affordable. So you can be more experimentative in your planting. But just remember that, watering them is really key for the first couple of years for their success.
And then the last one was, what are the culturally relevant foods?
Yeah. So some of the culturally relevant foods, epazote. We have different kinds of squash. We have seeds for, let's see, kinds of radish. We have, so we have the seeds available. So when a farmer says, hey, I'd like to take on this, we'll try to distribute those seeds so that we're not just all growing the same thing, so that when we have them at the food bank, it will be a variety of things. But let's see, I think we do have a brochure or a flyer on our website. I can't think of more specifics than that right now, though. Sounds good. Yeah. All right.